We are the Crawfords. We have 6 kids and are hiking the Appalachian Trail, a 2,200-mile hike from Georgia to Maine. We don't know if we can finish it, but we are doing it together.
All right, first, a toast. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, why are we here?
So, another wonderful, magical trail angel offered the family and their adoptive son, Silver, a house for the evening. And this was really good timing because it's been raining for pretty much 3 days off and on. There's been wild thunderstorms, there's been gale force winds as we're going up mountains in the Shenandoahs. I didn't even know there were mountains in the Shenandoahs. Yeah, there's been thunder and lightning, there's been tree branches down. But apparently we were only in like the little appetizer course of it. Because I opened up the weather this morning, right as we're about to be leaving the trail, and it's what? 2 to 3 inches of rain expected today. 2 to 3 inches expected just overnight. 3 to 4 inches were expected tomorrow, and then 1 to 2 inches tomorrow night. Which is like the Old Testament. So we thought about it, and we... You know what?
All right, some of you guys might remember Bill.
Well, I should have brought a kayak on my Appalachian Trail backpacking trip. Basically, everything that I own is wet, and I've been walking through 2-3 inches of water on the trail this morning. That's sweet trail life.
So instead of being out in the rain, we are going to be inside here, eating nice food. The steak is marinating. We have some beverages, and we have been relaxing with some new friends. And these are questions that we're going to be answering that people left in comments in a previous video. So thank you for everyone that did that. In the end of today's video, I'm going to ask that you guys put your questions down below that we're going to do for a Q&A where we're going to ask the kids questions. So these are just for Cammy and I. And can one of you first viewers do me a favor and do that thing where you type the time code in the comment and then the questions so that people can just like scan which ones are interesting to them. They don't have to watch the whole thing. And then other people can thumbs up that one. Thank you. Tammy McNeil asks, what was one luxury item you each thought you needed to bring on the trail that you wish you hadn't had to carry on the AT? You know, we thought about this for a while. There wasn't a lot. I had one, we sent a few things back. One was like this power splitter. I just imagined coming to this gas station where there's one outlet and 8 hikers. And I need to like charge my drone, the laptop, the camera, and like, you know, all at the same time. And I never used it. There's always been like plenty of outlets, so I shipped that back.
And at the beginning we had 3 AT books and we ditched 2 of them. Jen Weaver asks, do you experience boredom on the trail? What do you do to combat it? I would say a better word for that would be monotony, because you're just doing the same thing every single day. And a lot of times we don't combat it because we just have to deal with it. But what helps, I think, is just talking to each other. And if you have different thoughts because you have a lot of brain time, then you can talk. Ben and I will just like bounce certain things off of each other, and occasionally we'll even listen to music if it's at the end of the day and Ben knows he can charge his phone.
Yeah, you know, I think that's one of the reasons why we're doing the trail is to actually have boredom. You know, we don't think it's a bad thing. And it's even funny watching Rainier, the 2-year-old, in the beginning, I feel like he like felt trapped in the thing. And even after just 2 months, it's amazing watching his other faculties come alive. Like we talk about what we're hearing, we talk about what we're seeing, we talk about our feelings, we talk about yesterday. And, you know, we're still bored, but I think we've gotten okay with being bored.
I think it's a really good life skill to be able to deal with boredom and monotony and not go crazy because of it. Second part of the question was, your whole family seems so upbeat and positive, but I'm sure everyone has an off day now and again. How do you, as a family or as parents, handle the down days?
You know, a lot can happen in movie magic editing, and we could edit out all the negative parts. But really we don't. We haven't had a whole lot of down
We've had
days.
like down moments.
But yeah, not as
maybe
down
a
as
whole
I
day.
would expect. I mean, there's some times where you and I have gotten riffs, and I think we've tried to highlight that in the vlog. It does happen, but I think one of my number one tools as a parent that I try and do is to address it with the kids. If the kids are all at each other, I think it's better to step in as a dad and be able to say, hey guys, I notice everyone's at each other. Let's talk about this. What are people feeling? Yes, it's hard when it's rainy. What is something we can do about this? And just even like address it just by saying, hey, this seems like everyone's having a hard time. Like, instead of just ignoring it or burying my head or going off in my own land, putting my headphones in. So that's how we try and deal with down days. Lisa E asks, Cami, do you wish you purchased the thicker mattress? I remember Ben didn't think it would be worth carrying the extra bulk, and you really said how important your sleep is. How has your quality of sleep been on the thin mat?
Yeah, good question. I actually am very happy I left that mattress behind. We actually returned it. Because I think after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, or maybe it was even sooner than that, I totally adjusted to just sleeping on the thinner mat. I think part of that was just, I was so tired at the end of the day. I was so cold. I mean, there's just other things that like took precedent over too thin mat. And I've seen too how important weight is, like how much we're carrying. So I think I would have probably regretted taking that heavier sleeping mat. And not just the weight, like the time it would take to set up every night. I mean, that first month especially, like we had no extra energy to put into that.
I mean, that's like 30 cigars you could be carrying instead.
Exactly. Jess Cannell asks, I've heard people refer to the AT as the green tunnel. Is the scenery getting old at all for you guys? Well, first of all, the green didn't even come out for like 6 weeks.
It was
and
like
it's just
the
now,
gray tunnel.
And that did get old. But so far, the green has been pretty amazing. Like I think it's beautiful. Now, maybe in a month or two, I'll be over it. I don't know. You can ask then.
I'm like pretty thoroughly unimpressed with all things scenery AT. Coming from the Pacific Northwest, unless it's like 14,411 feet with glaciers on it and rainforest around it,
Rainier.
then I don't know. I just feel like some of the West Coast scenery that I'm used to is so much more majestic and grand. But that doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. It's just like just like the forest. So we see like little animals and moss and rocks and dirt and trees and plants, but it's all the same to me out here. There's nothing where I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. I mean, it's like cool rolling hills, and there's some cool sunsets and stuff.
Basically, like
Yeah.
if we didn't live.
Not trying to hate on you, East Coast.
No.
Stephanie asks, how often does little man walk around? Because we know you let him out of the pack more often than the 2 minutes shown in the 20-minute videos, but maybe addressing it again will help people to understand and stop judging so much.
About 2 or 3 times a day, we kind of have this routine where we'll take a break, and usually it's Dove, but sometimes it's the other kids. We'll leave first with him and go on ahead for about 10 minutes or so while we're still sitting there taking our break, and then we'll catch up to him and put him back in the pack.
Yeah, you know, it's tough because the bottom line is he's in the pack a lot. the day. For us to be able to cover 15 plus miles, you know, it takes 8 or 10 hours of him in there. But all the time that he's not, he's very active, you know, so he's never sitting on a couch in front of a TV. Not that that's the worst thing, but he's just like, he's doing stuff. So all morning he's running around, all night he's running around. Whenever we're at a lunch break, he's running around. And I even think in those 3 times he's walking, he's probably getting in a mile or 2 every day, which is more than other people. So, you know, it is hard though.
Kirsty asks, how has hiking the AT affected your family's relationship with God? Are you still spending time reading scripture as a family, celebrating Shabbat, or have you developed new ways to be close to God? It's been difficult, and it's just been different. I think I went in knowing it was going to be really different. I went in knowing I'm not going to be reading scripture every day, and I actually am okay with that, because I think there is other ways to experience God, that we're having an opportunity to experience him in ways that I think are pretty unique. And you just spend a ton of time in your head every day, and I just have a lot of time just to think, and if I want to talk to God, I do. Celebrating Shabbat has been a really tough thing for us to figure out on the trail. I think for the first month and a half, we didn't really prioritize it, and we realized that that was kind of at a cost. That was taking a toll, like, on our family. And so we're trying to figure out a way to incorporate it. It's going to be different than at home, and it has been really different.
Yeah, the whole experience though has been very disruptive to the way that our family felt like we were connecting with God when we were back home.
Yeah. But being out in nature is, I believe, like a really natural way to connect with God. There's just a lot. I mean, everywhere you look, you're like, wow, he created all this. That's crazy.
Bruce and a number of other people asked some variations of this question. How do the kids do their schooling while on the trail? Or did they get it done before embarking on your trip? So we have like kind of a different definition or value of like traditional schooling. And I don't call us unschoolers, but I don't really call it homeschooling. Sounds kind of weird too. Before the trail for the last 5 years, my kids came with me on almost every business interview, board meeting, real estate sales transaction, business equity transfer meeting, you know, shareholder meeting, retreats, you name it. Like, that was the way we educate our kids, was by including them in the types of activities in life that we found valuable. While we're on the trail, we're not stopping to like open a book and do math, and we didn't like cram that ahead of time. I think there's a place for that type of learning, but we see how much they're learning out here, and we don't think of it as schooling. It sounds like a weird way to say it. It's just like...
It's like life skills.
Yeah, it's just life and life. I mean, you just learn in life. So everything from having to buy and purchase and portion food to, you know, the plants and animals around you, to the like relational conflict and the even like overcoming demons and figuring out what you're capable of. That's the type of stuff our kids are learning. You know, maybe they could learn some of that in school, but mostly school seems like it's like book knowledge, and I feel like we can learn book knowledge at any time in our life.
HM asks, are you planning to finish before you go to Washington, or go to Washington and then back to the trail like you did for the marathon? Has your desire to complete the trail all the way to the end increased or diminished as you have hiked, or does it vary day to day, moment by moment? We don't really know what we're gonna do. Originally I was thinking, oh yeah, if we don't finish it, we'll do our commitment in Washington and then we'll just come back and finish it.
Obviously, because we have to finish it. That's what we thought.
But more recently, Ben, like literally last night, Ben and I were thinking like, well, if we're like not done with it, why would we go back? Like, what would the cost be for our whole family to like go from Washington back, basically from coast to coast? Like, would that be worth it for us just to say, oh, we did the whole thing? And I'll admit that it's a little bit like hard for me to think, oh, we did it all but 100 miles or whatever it is. But I really do believe in making the best decision for our whole family.
Caribou Jade asked kind of a longer question. I see what your family is doing is a perfectly normal thing for outdoor style families to do. As families move away from family farms, small communities, and outdoor lifestyles towards more urban lifestyle, outdoor activities begin to be looked at with disdain and unnatural by the urban dwellers. How do you see that transition affecting the families of the future? And they could kind of go on to say that it's irritating for them to see like the people that are reporting us to CPS, and that people are really kind of giving us crap for all that and the regulation and whatnot. And I can really relate to that. I don't know, the way I try and think about this, one is, I don't think we have a responsibility to change the world or change people's minds. Like, we are trying to do what's best for our children and ourselves, period. And the decision to vlog it is the decision to let other people have a small glimpse into it if they choose. And how they interpret that and how they judge it and how they comment that, you know, in a way it's kind of none of our business. Like, I'm assuming that like some people are gonna see it and be challenged and grow, and other people are just gonna judge us and try and call CPS on us, and that's fine. But I also just try and see that like, yeah, you know, nature is becoming more obsolete. People view climate control and cars as safer things, which is a really bizarre thing. And when they see other people doing something differently, they get kind of scared. They feel unsafe and they don't know how to deal with it. So when I see it that way, I'm like, oh yeah, it's unfamiliar to them. They don't know. It helps me have grace towards people that don't even know you can go camping, don't know you can take kids outdoors. And I try and think, well, we have an opportunity to show them at least that it's possible.
Laura M asks, do the kids usually walk as a pack or separately at their own pace? Are they mostly chatting away or walking silently? I think it's kind of all of the above. Filia usually is walking with someone else. But I would say the 3 older kids and often the 4 older kids are walking together as a pack. And I mean, I hear them chatting a ton and
all the time,
playing with each other. And then I'm sure there's times of silence too, because it's like 12 hours a day that, you know, we're walking here. So, and Ben and I are usually in the back with Rainier.
Life with Lolo asks, how often do y'all take potty breaks and how do y'all get the privacy you need during them? Well, I take a potty break, what, once an hour? Fairly often.
More often than me.
Yeah.
For me, it's maybe once every 2 to 3, kind of depends on how much I'm drinking. I mean, you got like 7 people that have to take potty breaks that, so, you know, we have to wait for the younger kids because they can't be alone, and so it's happening all the time.
There's a couple things. We encourage kids to take as much privacy as they need, but it has to be safe, which is kind of a balance because we have to be able to hear you and they have to be within a certain distance of the trail. So there is like, you have to choose between privacy and safety sometimes. But the other thing is we found on the trail, like privacy is not the #1, you know, factor. Like it's a little bit more granola out there. It's more natural.
Well, I think privacy takes on a different definition out there. There's no closed doors, you know, unless you're like in a privy, and it's just, we're just a little bit more okay with being more close.
Well, and I'm trying to use it as an opportunity to expose our kids in healthy ways to just normal functions of the human body and be like, yeah, people have to go poop and people have to pee.
Yeah.
And you might see your brothers and sisters doing it and it's like not a big deal. Like it's just one of those things that happens. We don't have to freak out about it. It's not it doesn't need to be a spiritual weird thing. It's just one of the normal things that happens a lot. And around here, you can't hide it all the time.
And some of our kids need more privacy than others, just personality-wise, and there's age differences, so yeah. Anna asks, what's the biggest mistake you made so far on the trail? One of the things that's been, I don't know if I call it a mistake, but maybe, one of the things that's been the hardest to figure out has been how, like, Wayne enjoying the trail, enjoying the moments with, we have to time manage, and which means we need to do a certain amount of miles a day and trying to figure out what that is for us. I mean, I kind of feel like, I don't think I regret what we've done because we were just trying to figure it out, but I can look back on the last 6 weeks or so and just feel like, yeah, I kind of feel like maybe we were a little too like mile focused.
Yeah, and it's hard to even answer that question in terms of biggest mistake, but if I could do things differently, I wish we would have dressed Rainier warmer earlier. We figured out this thing with the quilt later on, a big thing, and I wish I would have done that earlier. And there was a few times, you know, there was all this controversy around the flicking thing, but there was times when, for me as a dad, I know the frustration of the moment made it so that I wasn't able to focus on him and kind of not take it personally when he was like screaming and just see it as his need. So, you know, I don't really see those as like huge mistakes. I more see those as like areas of immaturity that even the trail has helped me mature in so far. But, you know.
And I can say I can relate to all that as well.
T-Bone Jones asks, my question concerns financial spending. More than you thought or less? Will finances eventually determine how far you go on the trail? It has been way more. Mostly because of the temperature and the hotels and hostels and food and just like the morale boost that those things are. Now that's not like a huge tragedy for us that it was more, but it was a little bit surprising because I was like, oh, I didn't know we'd be staying 2 nights, 3 nights in a hotel with 2 rooms. Like, so yeah, definitely not less. And then there was like things like we bought all the kids trekking poles. That's like, you know, $600 worth of gear right there. Mm-hmm. And no, finances I don't think will determine how far we go on the trail. That's not the types of money we're talking about for the trail. And I'll try and release a video in the future, hopefully talking about like break down those finances. But no, we're not in a place where $10,000 or $20,000 or 2 months is gonna like make or break us.
Snap Travel Chew Travel Vlogs asks, do your kids even complain? I know you don't film everything, but they seem so well behaved and helpful to each other.
Are the kids laughing over there?
Yeah, they definitely complain. I will say they don't complain as much about hiking. I think they're just, I don't know if they've just like, they're like, this is what we do every day. I mean, sometimes, occasionally they'll complain about like, oh, we wanted to go into town. I thought we were gonna go into town. But the thing that they complain the most about is, they complain about each other. Like if they're just picking on each other, they complain about that. Or if I ask them to do something, a lot of times they'll complain or roll their eyes or sigh or whatever. So, I mean, they're like normal kids.
Yeah, but you know, one thing that has been really surprising to me is how little they do complain about the actual trail and hike.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like us. Like, I mean, we have our moments where like, that day sucked, this is hard. But I actually don't hear any of them complain. You know, I think about Filia, who's 7.
Oh,
she does these 20-mile days, and at the end of 20, she's not complaining.
Yeah.
because I feel like they know that they can do it, you know, and I think a lot of complaints often stem from a place where it's like, I don't know if I can do this, or like maybe if I complain enough, we'll stop. And I think our kids are trained enough to know that they can do it and that we have to do it, you know, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And that's what I was actually surprised at after 2 months. I've never heard the kids complain about the distance or say like, can we stop? We can't do this. Even when it hurts. And that's like, even in the marathon, our long days in terms of like even hiking 14 hours. So yeah, we all have our issues, but.
Filia will say, and she'll say to me, she'll say, I'm really tired. But she'll say it like that instead of like, I'm tired. I mean, it's like a different type of, it's just like letting me know where she's at.
Which is really helpful because we need that type of information.
Yeah.
Mama Saurus asks, before the trail, you were pretty strict about what the kids can eat, especially sugar-wise. Did you go into the AT consciously deciding to toss that conviction aside, or did you change your diets naturally shaped to what is available on the trail? Yeah, we didn't plan anything, and it got crazy at first. Like, everyone was just buying candy like crazy, and we were eating soda everywhere because it just felt like we were in town and like throw all the rules out. It felt like Christmas Day, like let's just splurge. So we had to change that, and yeah, all the rules are kind of out right now. Well, that's not true. Like, we still are trying to be careful with like candy and soda, like pointless calories. But there's a lot where it's just like, we gotta eat almost anything that the kids can eat.
Yeah. Like, I think we're having to care more about calories than sugar right now. So, and that's where we're at.
And for those of you guys that don't know, like, just as one benchmark, I lost 30 pounds in the first 6 weeks, like on accident, like not on purpose. And we didn't weigh really anyone else or the other kids, so we don't really know, but I've been eating way more than I'm comfortable with.
Mommy of 4 asks, when you get reports from concerned citizens, does this discourage you from continuing on or give you second thoughts at finishing the AT? The first month, we definitely had second thoughts about not so much quitting, but more like maybe we should just stop vlogging and social media because this is just, we feel too exposed. Like, is this unsafe for us to be putting us out there?
What could these people who don't like us, what could they do to us?
Yeah. But I feel like something really turned like maybe 6 weeks ago where we kind of felt like, I think we're going to be okay. A lot of it we just felt like was hot air that people were just blowing off, and I'm sure, you know, something could happen, but I don't think we're super worried about it.
Well, and it's like a different world. You know, there's these people in their couches that are hating us or discussing us or don't like what we're doing. And it's like, it has nothing to do with us. You know, they have this opinion about life, and they're using our family and our story as their ammo to reinforce their own beliefs. But it's like, you know, besides the 1 or 2 or 3 phone calls that have been made that have actually crossed our path where we've had to deal with someone, very little of it actually will ever have to do with our life. You know, so I think the biggest shift we made is like, we stopped reading that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, at first I thought, oh, we can handle it. Like, let's be big boys and girls and see what the world thinks about us. And after all, I was like, you know what? I don't want to know. It doesn't matter. It's not even being mature. It's like, this is unhelpful to us.
Yeah. Like,
I don't want to know what the world thinks about us. Okay, this is the last question from Marlum. My question has to do with goals when you start out versus goals now. I remember you spoke a lot about leaving social media behind and hoping to learn that the only things that were important were God, family, and nature. I can see that goal has remained. Do you think that you have enjoyed nature as much as you thought you might? What changed with the leaving social media behind? And then she's asking, like, how has vlogging impacted all this, and could we leave all of you guys behind on the vlog and do better for that? Yeah, this has been really tricky. You know, this is the first backpacking trip. This is like a huge lifestyle shift. I mean, it's like 6 months. So like other times we've done like 9 or 10 days and we leave the phone, no electricity.
Which that's what we know. So this was like a really big decision to, in one sense, to decide to vlog on the AT, because we were really trying to wrestle with it, because we're actually used to not vlogging when we do something like this, but then at the same time we've been vlogging for 2.5 years at that point, so it also felt a little bit natural to bring it.
And I feel like it has worked out well. I mean, on the trail, it doesn't take a whole lot of energy to film. I mean, it does take energy, and it's always going in the back of my head, like, okay, I need to film. But I'm able to turn that off for sometimes 8 to 10 hours a day, because we don't film a whole lot in the grand scheme of things while on the trail. Coming into towns, that's when it's tricky, because coming into towns, Seven needs to do his editing, I need to upload. But I think that's time that would not be very valuably spent otherwise. I mean, maybe, you know, we'd be hanging out, but I think we'd probably be also watching more TV and zoning out on Instagram. But instead, we're editing, uploading, responding to comments.
I think it's been a cool way for our family to kind of pitch in as a family. I mean, we do this at home, and then we just kind of, I mean, Dove has a job, Seven has a job, Ben has a job, you know, we're all vlogging, so in a way we all have a part in this.
And I think there's been as many pros and cons that we've observed so far. So I'm actually glad that we're doing it. I think it's actually been a benefit for us. Not to mention the fact that a house like this and the people that we're meeting and some of the places we're staying are all a result of doing the vlog. Oh, hello. Hello. Okay, that is our last question. Sorry if that was a little bit long. Hopefully this was helpful. So the next Q&A we're gonna do is based upon the questions that you guys leave in the comments below. And this one is gonna be for the kids. So you can ask any one kid a question or all the kids. And if you could take a minute and not just type your question, but if you could do the upvote, downvote thing, that helps us figure out which questions you guys think are the most important. That's how we determine today's questions. We think we're gonna be back out on the trail tomorrow morning. We have to be out on the trail tomorrow morning because we're getting kicked out of this house because they're actually renting it to people that are gonna pay them money for it. Unlike us. But we were so glad to be here, and we will see you guys out on the trail again tomorrow.